What's up, everybody? It's Jairo from the Grind Fitness Training Systems, and welcome to another topic. Today, we're going to talk about joint centration. Joint centration is biomechanics, basically. You got to think of joint centration is learning how to move as the most efficient version that you can as a human for you individually. Everybody's body is built a particular way, and you have to learn how to actually line up your body as biomechanically as efficient in the gym in order for you to amplify your combat sport. Okay, this is why I put up here joint centration equals learning how to be as efficient as possible, as powerful as possible, and as injury resistant as possible with your movement. That's the hard part. Usually, most people are powerful with their movement. Most people are injury resistant with their movement. And then very few people from the gate, this is, I would say, top 1% of athletes, okay, are naturally efficient with their movement. It is what it is. Those are the gifted people. So you got to realize and understand that the gym is to complement your combat sport, whatever it is, whether you do striking, whether you do boxing, whether you do grappling, or a combination of the three. The idea is, as you get better with your sport, you get worse as a human. Okay? Again, someone told me today, she's like, I don't understand what you mean by that. And I had to explain it in a slightly different way. Basically, what ends up happening, and maybe combat sports is one of the few sports that doesn't really 100% apply to, but I know I definitely feel it when I do jiu-jitsu. Sport is repetitive motion in one particular direction. Whether you're a striker, whether you're a grappler, whatever that is, you're going in one particular direction. So as you get better at your sport, what ends up happening is because you're doing a repetitive motion in a particular direction, you end up getting worse as a human. So you move a little bit worse. You walk around your shoulders. You walk with a slightly different gait, all because you do combat sports. So the reason why joint centration is important, because what you got to learn is that you have to learn inside the gym the biomechanics of learning how to move efficiently, powerfully, and as injury resistant as possible is going to directly transfer over to your sport, because the better you move as a human, the stronger you are as a human, and the more injury resistant you are as a human, the more power output and risk you can take in your combat sports, because you can recover faster, you can move faster, and you can do things with more power, whatever it is, depending whether you're doing striking, grappling, choking, whatever it is. Which is why I wrote here, alignment matters more than just strength. So what a lot of people do, especially us in combat sports, is what I've noticed with a lot of the combat athletes that I speak to is they'll do their combat sport, but then they'll lift like a bodybuilder. That makes no sense. It doesn't make you more efficient. It just builds more muscle. And those are the things that you have to kind of pay attention to, because you have to do things that align your body and not just focus on strength. So there's a bunch of couple different ways you can do that. And I can explain all those things, but we're not going to get into that in this video. Okay? So what is actually joint centration? Joint centration, I wrote here, optimal alignment for your joint in order for it to transfer force. So if it's a recoil power, if it's dead stop joint power, how do I make my joint structure as efficient as possible so that my muscular power is more effective? Okay, and you have to figure that out for you, because everybody is built slightly different. Some people are tall, some people are short, some people are long, some people are thick, some people have heavy bones, some people have very slender bones. Everyone is different. So you have to learn how to be as optimal aligned for your body so that you move better as a human. Okay? Because what it does is it balances out muscle tension. So a good example is, right now I'm very heavy in grappling. Okay, so grappling is excessive internal rotation. You're rounding your upper back. I'm internally rotating my shoulders. I'm flexing my biceps, all to basically squeeze my opponent. Well, what ends up happening is that That tension is I'm overworking my front side and I'm not working my back side enough. So there's a muscular tension imbalance because I'm overusing the anterior side, the front part of my body, to squeeze people, that the back side of my body is not strong enough to compensate. So that's why when you hit the gym, you want to move or do things that get you back to zero so that it reduces muscle tension, because everything on the front side has an opposing muscle on the back side and vice versa. Everything on the back side has an opposing muscle on the front side. So if the front and the back have the same amount of strength, they cancel each other out and your body's in a relaxed state. Or you have tension on one side. Everyone's felt it. You ever fall asleep on your arm and all of a sudden you got a kink in your neck and you're walking around like this and you're like, oh, I can't move my head. The reason why that happens is because this got shorted. It just got shortened. It cramped up. So those are things that you got to understand, that when you're doing all this movement in the gym, that you're also creating balance within the body, which allows you to recover better, which in turn will generate more power when you decide to actually move, because it creates joint congruency and control of the body. Okay? So why this matters? So I'm going to go on a little bit more on this. Pore centration equals, the most important one is power leaks, meaning that if you're not learning how to move as efficiently as possible at the joint level, all the muscle effort in the world, let's say you have 100 pounds of force that you're able to produce. These are just pulling numbers out of the air. And you leak 30% of that. Well, now no one feels 100 pounds worth of force. They're only feeling 70 pounds worth of force. So you got to understand, the more efficient you move, that generated force gets applied at a higher rate, which is what you want. You want to reduce the power leaks. At the same time, pore centration also increases the risk of injury under stress, which I don't know about you, but if I'm fighting somebody, I'm under stress and I'm doing all kinds of crazy things when I'm in really bad positions. So if you don't learn how to move efficiently, you run the risk of accidentally hurting yourself, which I don't know about you, but I don't want to accidentally hurt myself. Okay? At the same time, if you have poor centration, it also affects your recovery and movement efficiency, which I've already discussed. Okay, so it all leads to this down here. Mobility plus stability, which is strength, equals joint centration. They work in conjunction in order for you to create the most efficient, powerful, and injury-resistant movement that you can make. So when you're in the gym, what you want to focus on is at the shoulder, scapular control, elevation, depression, retraction, protraction, all those type of things that you want to do. And then thoracic mobility, which we've discussed in other videos. If not, go check that video out. There's one that I have that's thoracic mobility. At the hip level, obviously the same thing, mobility, and then unilateral loading. Unilateral loading is just a fancy way of saying one-legged stuff. So anything one-legged, Bulgarian, one-legged step-ups, any of those variations. When it comes to the knee, proprioception and stability drills, things like skaters, box jumps, one-legged jumps, things where you're forcing the knee to be stable, because that'll transfer directly over to your combat sport. When you go to train different training methods you got to do. Unilateral, which I already spoke about. Tempo. Tempo training is basically learning to adjust the speed of the movement that you're trying to accomplish. If you're doing a bench press, let's say it's a 3-second eccentric, 0 isometric, and a 1-centric concentric. It's just basically creating different time sections within each particular part of the motion. Okay? The next one is core in combination with breathing. This one is only specific to, I believe, combat sports. Okay? Because having a strong core means that your body is more stable, which helps you generate more power on the rest of the body. But because we're doing combat sports, we're either breathing at a very high rate and or we're in a suffocated position. So we have to learn how to be strong at the core, but also learn how to do expansive diaphragmatic breathing. And then the very last one is intentional mobility. Those are things like doing cars, doing IR, ER, irradiation, things like that. There's a whole section in my YouTube channel that I go through a bunch of those exercises. I would highly recommend going through some of those because it's a different style of training. And when you do it, you'll understand the concept, and then you can pepper it in throughout your workouts when you work out. But yeah, man, I think I got everything. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. If you have any questions, comments, anything to that nature, comment down below or shoot me a message, and I'll try to respond as soon as possible. Thanks, guys.